Donald Trump celebrates how he's a murderer. You don't have to call him a murderer. Just listen to him talk, and he'll be like, yo, listen, I'm a murderer.
Let's go. We'll go.
And Mr.
We're going to tell them what we're going to do, and I think they're going to probably like it, except for the radical left lunatics.
And Mr. President, if you are declaring war against these cartels and Congress is likely to approve of that process, why not just ask for a declaration of war?
Well, I don't think we're going to necessarily ask for a declaration of war. I think we're just going to kill people that are bringing drugs into our country. Okay? We're going to kill them. You know, they're going to be like dead. Okay?
You see how that murderer was very jazzed about the term kill them. We're going to kill them.
Okay? We're going to kill them.
He held on to the M a little bit longer because, he got jazzed up for a second thinking about murder. He's bloodthirsty. So since he's so bloodthirsty, he's talking about people that he thinks don't need to exist because they're beneath him, because he's a white supremacist. And he said how much he wants to kill people. So as he's making the excuse for his murderous tendencies, and he talks about how he wants to kill more people with zero trials, zero investigations, just shoot them and blow them up. He gets a little bit of help from his Secretary of War. That's why he named him that, because they like killing people.
Some alleged smugglers have survived some of these recent strikes and been sent back to their home country. If they're terrorists, why not just arrest and detain them?
Go ahead.
2 points on that. First, when I served in Iraq in 2005 and 2006, we used to, in sort of a gallows humor way, talk about the Iraqi catch and release program, the reality that we would catch a lot of people, hand them over, and then they would be recycled back through, and we'd have to recapture them or attack them again. And that's why changing the dynamic and actually taking kinetic strikes on these boats ought change the psychology of these foreign terrorist organizations. To those two that survived the shot on the semi-submersible, think again, compared to Iraq and Afghanistan, the vast majority of people that we captured on the battlefield, we handed over to the home country. Did we always like how it shaped out? Sometimes we did, sometimes we did not. But 99% would go to the Afghan authorities or the Iraqi authorities. So in this case, those two, they were treated by American medics and handed immediately over to their countries where they came from, hopefully to face prosecution, which is a very standard way of handling something like this.
Because he heard Donald Trump talk about catch and release so much, Pete Hegseth decided to serve their king, as they've talked about before, and talk about the reason we're just blowing people up indiscriminately, which also Donald Trump bragged before about blowing up fishermen indiscriminately, and said, I guess it's going to take a hit to the fisherman business because he doesn't care. Pete Hegseth decided to jump in. He punted towards him. He goes, Pete, go ahead, handle this one. Go ahead, serve me. Go ahead and tell them how we're going to keep murdering people and have absolutely no actual investigation, no confrontation, nothing. Let's just kill them, as we already heard him say.
There's reporting the U.S. just sent B-1 bombers near Venezuela to ramp up some military pressure there. Is that accurate? And can you tell us more about that mission?
No, it's not accurate. No, it's false. But we're not happy with Venezuela for a lot of reasons, drugs being one of them, but also they've been sending their prisoners into our country for years under the Biden administration. Not anymore.
Man, everything is Biden, huh? But he's denying those reports that they're sending, bombers in towards Venezuela and start some wars there. The guy who wants the Nobel Peace Prize, he's denying it, even though all reality completely shows that. All he has to do is dismiss it. Maybe someone should ask him the next question and give him the proof and evidence of his lies. And then before you give him a chance to lie again, say, so why did you deny reality the first time? What are you trying to cover up? Ask it calmly. Ask it confidently, because he's a liar. Like, you don't have to live in the reality of the liar. You really don't have to. Some people actually don't live in that reality of these lies. They don't get as much of a platform to talk about how they shouldn't live in this reality of this effing liar.
Number one, there is no fentanyl made in Venezuela. Not just a little bit, there's none being made in Venezuela. These are outboard boats that, in order for them to get to Miami, would have to stop and refuel 20 times. They're in all likely going to Trinidad and Tobago, which is an island right off of the coast of Venezuela. So there's a lot of reasons to be worried about this. But number one is the broader principle of when can you kill people indiscriminately? When you're at war. That's why when we declare war, it's supposed to be done by Congress. It's supposed to be thoughtful. It's supposed to be debated. And we're not supposed to do it willy-nilly. And then when you have war, you just kill people in the war zone. And even then, there are rules of engagement. But interdicting drugs has always been a criminal activity and a criminal anti-crime sort of activity where we don't just summarily execute people. We actually present evidence and convict them.
What I'm trying to figure out is if Rand Paul is clear-headed enough to say things like there's no fentanyl made in Venezuela, not just a little bit, but none. And therefore, when we're killing people based off of this, because it's literally impossible for these folks on these little boats to make drug runs from Venezuela to the United States, as they keep saying that they're doing, as also they say things like, we're just going to kill them. As they keep saying all this stuff, when Rand Paul, a Republican, a well-known Republican, says things like that, why he doesn't then keep saying it? Why he doesn't then say things like it's criminal activity for them to do things like this, to why he then doesn't try and bring up criminal charges or tell his other fellow colleagues, yo, we got to stop following behind this criminal. He literally just laid out a direct contradiction to what it is Donald Trump is doing and said that it's criminal activity and that we can't just indiscriminately kill people as if we're in a war because, Congress has to be the one to declare war. That's why Donald Trump said, why would I go through Congress? Why would I declare war? I just want to kill people. But you know what? Sadly, since Rand Paul isn't doing anything except talking to Piers Morgan about it, he probably could go through Congress to declare war because every time anyone tries to do anything about his plan to kill more people in boats, fishermen and stuff, they don't really care and they support him anyway.
Somewhere off the coast of Venezuela, a speedboat with 11 people on board is blown to smithereens. Vice President Vance announces that killing cartel members that poison our fellow citizens is the highest and best use of our military. When challenged that killing citizens without due process is a war crime, the Vice President's response is that he doesn't give a shit. What we are doing in practice means that a terrorist is whoever the executive branch decides to label one. You are a terrorist because you are labeled one. You can be killed because you are called a terrorist. But where in all of this is some sort of evidence that you are guilty of something?
I move to discharge the Committee on Foreign Relations from further consideration of S.J. Res. 83 to direct the removal of the United States Armed Forces from hostilities that have not been authorized by Congress, and I ask for the yeas and nays.
On this vote, the yeas are 48, the nays are 51, and the motion is not agreed to.
So they blocked the order to stop Trump from just killing people in international waters because the Republicans run Congress. I just wish Rand Paul, who was arguing in favor of blocking him from doing this, as he was talking about how as long as they just determine someone a terrorist, they can just kill you, and that bypasses due process. It gets through all the normal legal proceedings of proof and evidence. I just wish when he was talking about that before, when he wasn't talking about that when Stephen Miller was talking about suspending habeas corpus, I just wish that Rand Paul would have said then, Stephen Miller just said he wants to suspend habeas corpus and just kill people. He wants to just jail people. He wants to disappear people off the streets and didn't support him. I wonder why Rand Paul has these flashes of reality in his head where he's willing to say something like, this is criminal activity. These are terrorists that are calling you a terrorist in order to kill you by the power of the United States government. But when the people who are about to do it say we're gonna do it, Rand Paul is silent, similar to Marjorie Taylor Greene and anyone else that decides to say something one time about how horrible this administration is treating their power. Because then once they do it, they go, I wonder if somebody's going to do something about this. All I can do is say something to make myself look good in this particular moment.